And joining us now with more from Capitol Hill is Republican Congresswoman Maria Salazar of Florida, who serves on both the House Foreign Affairs Committee and Financial Services Committee. Congresswoman, thank you very much for being with us here on Bloomberg TV and radio. The War Powers resolution in the Senate just failed. No surprise. We knew it wasn't likely to pass, just like we know the one in your chamber tomorrow is not likely to pass. I know you yourself are not supportive of a War Powers resolution at this time. Is there a situation in which you would be supportive of reining in what the president can do militarily here? What if he wants to send in ground troops, for example?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I just wanted to add something that while I was listening to what Secretary Blinken said, that we have to explain to the American people. I think what we have to explain to the American people is that President Trump has used his powers as commander-in-chief to be able to liberate and to prevent an attack from the Iranians to our neighbors, our Arab neighbors, our Arab friends, Israel, and the United States. That is what we're looking at this scenario in very different fashion, in very different ways. And that's why it failed. This resolution failed in the Senate and is going to fail tomorrow in the House because Trump has created a new blueprint. It's like a new groundwork that he has put together in the sense that he is creating this platform for the bad guys to lay the work and the way to the good guys. And that's what we're doing now in Iran. What happened in Iran? We prevented a very major conflict that was going to come if we did not stop the 100 a month ballistic missiles that they were creating. That's what I think, that we do not need any resolution, because this is not going to be a long-term conflict.
Well, Congresswoman, you refer to this as the president creating a blueprint. What would you say to someone who asked if the blueprint actually being created here is that Congress's authority is no longer one of war powers, that Congress does not need to be asked about that?
Because we are not entering into a war, which is what happened with Venezuela. What we're doing is that we are preventing from an enemy to attacking the mainland and attacking our neighbors and attacking Israel in the case of the Ayatollahs. We have liberated the Middle East from the worst evil empire that region could have seen in the last 100 years. I just told you, 100 ballistic missiles a month. For what? Why, when we offer them liquid nuclear fuel for them to be able to create and to enhance their own civilian nuclear program, they said, no, we want to create our own nuclear weapons. So right there, we know what their intentions are. And what did we do at the White House? We stopped it because the intentions were not good for the Arabs, for the Israelis, and for the Americans.
Well, of course, stopping it and taking out these thousands of targets has come at a cost of munitions. And of course, the expense of those munitions can be substantial, which is why there is now a live conversation about whether supplemental funding will be required. We spoke with your colleague, Republican Mike Rounds, the senator, about this on Balance of Power last night. This is what he told me. I'll have you respond.
We do know that we've still got munitions available to us. But anytime you expend the munitions, you want to make sure that you're in a position to replace those munitions as quickly as possible. And so if in the middle of this process over the next several weeks, they decide that they're going to ask for a supplemental, I most certainly would consider it, or as a part of the appropriations process. I think the president's indicated he'd like to go up about $500 billion in additional expenditures for the next coming year.
And I am willing to vote for it as well. I'm willing to vote for it as well.
On what timeline do you think that could come together?
Whatever the White House and whatever leadership in the GOP and the House of Representatives decides, if we need to allocate, to appropriate, and to authorize that money, we will. Because all we're doing is that we are preventing from entering into a long-term conflict with Iran. That is exactly why are we there? Why did we bomb them? Because we knew the Ayatollahs were negotiating in bad faith, because they were creating a ballistic missile program that was going to outnumber our ballistic missiles, the Israelis and the rest of the Arab-friendly countries. So that's what we did. This action has prevented a long-term conflict, which is when the president would need to come to Congress and ask for permission. That's not the scenario at this hour.
Congresswoman, I'm sure you're well aware that there is a bit of a live conversation within the Republican Party right now about whether or not this president is still sticking to America First beliefs, as we see not only this action now in Iran, but the action you referred to earlier in Venezuela, the capturing of Maduro. And I'm wondering if you do see this as a more interventionist president, and if we are going to be intervening, should Cuba be next?
And I agree with you that this is, it all depends on how you see it. This is an America First agenda because we are protecting and preventing our enemies from attacking the mainland and for continuing doing harm to our children. And so that is America First. He is putting America first by taking out Maduro, who was sending not only the Tren and terrorists and drugs. So we put him out, and that's not happening anymore. And he's not using the oil, the Venezuelan oil, to fuel terrorist groups in the United States, like Tren. Number two, Iran. So we are stopping him. So that's America First. We're stopping the Ayatollahs from harming not only the United States with the interballistic missiles, but harming our #1 ally in the Middle East, which is Israel. So, yeah, that's an America First agenda, of course.
And what about Cuba, Congresswoman? Would you like to see action there?
Cuba is the mothership of evil. What the Ayatollahs were in the Middle East is what the Castros are in the Western Hemisphere. The mothership of evil. Because Castro wrote the manual on repression and on how to maintain power at all costs. So now Cuba is next. And that's exactly what the president needs to do, because like the Ayatollahs and Iran was just hanging by a thread, so is the Cuban regime. Right now, I hear the latest reports is that they haven't had, they meaning the whole island is in darkness. There's no electricity, there's no fuel, there's no gas. So that means that there's no food, there's no water. Why? Because the Cubans are in the business of power, just like the Ayatollahs, just like Maduro. They're all in the business of power, not in the business of feeding their population and making them happy. That's why Cuba should be next, no doubt about it. And I represent the Cuban exile community in Miami, and we are waiting because that's an America First agenda as well.
Well, and Congresswoman, I would like to talk about that constituency you have and representative constituencies elsewhere, the Hispanic community across the country. I know you represent Florida, but I wonder if you look at what we saw in Texas yesterday and what happened with Hispanic voter turnout in particular. And I wonder if that gives you concern as your party moves forward into November.
Great concern, because as you know, I wrote the only immigration reform bill on the table in Congress, because the Hispanics came to the GOP in 24 in masses. 1 out of 2 Hispanic males voted for President Trump. The problem is that the directives coming from the White House, when it comes to the deportations, they were not the directives that many of us thought that it was going to be. The president promised that he was going to do the largest mass deportation in the history of the country. We agree with that. The bad hombres, the illegals who are criminals, the criminals, not the people who have no criminal record. Because those people, I mean, who are illegal as well, but we need to have another type of conversation. What are we going to do with the gardener, not the gangster? We know what we're going to do with the gangster. What are we going to do with the nanny, not the narco? So that is what I am inviting my party, the GOP, to start that conversation before the midterms in November of 26, because we need to bring back the Hispanics, the largest and fastest growing minority in the country. They need to be with us. And we need to show them that we are in favor of their interest, which is not to deport someone who does not have a criminal record. Let's find another status, the dignity status. No citizenship, no amnesty, no citizenship, dignity.
All right, we will leave it there. Congresswoman, I so appreciate your time. Republican Congresswoman Maria Salazar of Florida, thank you so much.